I can generate this article in 5 minutes on ChatGPT and upload it to the site. And I did it for him on the call. And I'm like, this is what you're paying, thousands of dollars for every single
Oh my God.
Doing simple things like this is what takes a website from nothing, not ranking at all, to being one of the top ranking pages for almost every search in a city. We can stop, but your competitors don't stop.
Welcome to the Market Movers podcast. Today we're joined by Austin Ryder, an SEO consultant specializing in helping home service contractors scale their business through digital marketing and SEO. Welcome, Austin.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Austin, it's great to have you on. To get started, why don't you tell us a bit about your past and maybe what drew you to the home services space?
Yeah, sure. So the journey through SEO has been an interesting one, but I'm sure plenty of people can relate. I was working in another job doing like healthcare IT and really just wanted something to where I can work from anywhere in the world and, have kind of like an uncapped earning potential in the future. So started building websites and messing around on WordPress and trying out some of the blogging stuff, really got into the affiliate marketing side of things actually. So, it was a journey and I was not good at it at first. So we all start from somewhere though. And so just started publishing blog posts and kind of realized that I can rank something on Google and get traffic to the site organically just from what people are searching. And I thought that that was super interesting. And then I learned that businesses all across the world of all shapes and sizes were using this as a business tactic. And I kind of just had this light bulb moment where I'm like, SEO is an excellent channel for marketing and growth. And so, this is in 2019, so about 6 years ago. And, the landscape was a lot different back then. But my goal was to eventually start an agency. That was always kind of my goal. And I just didn't know anything about business or really SEO or how agencies worked. And so I was trying to do clients and still work my full-time job. And it just wasn't really shaking out too well. So I decided to try to get a job at an agency so I can just learn the ropes. And this is what a lot of people recommended to me at the time. I was talking to people like Ryan Stewart and some other SEO names at the time. And so I got a lot of really good advice from people. And I just decided to take it slow, kind of develop a 5-year plan to do this. And so I worked at a couple different agencies doing some e-commerce and doing a lot of DTC. And I kind of jumped agencies a couple times, to continue working with bigger and bigger clients and getting all that experience. I ended up at, Neil Patel's agency, NPD. Nice. And so I made a lot of really awesome connections there. There's so many talented people at that agency and got to work with some really big brands and clients and had some interesting experiences there with that. So really built up a portfolio. So then it gives me the confidence to go in and be able to sell myself and sell SEO confidently. And so at that time, all of my experience was in more e-commerce and enterprise level. But eventually, I kind of wanted to move in-house because agency life is taxing for anybody that's in it. You do know that you do get quite a bit of clients and they are very demanding. And the higher that price point gets of what they're paying, the more they demand. So it was fine. And I learned a lot about agency life, but I moved in-house to a law firm, a pretty big one in Texas. And, we had about 20 to 30 locations across the United States that, we had 20 to 25 Google business profiles, I should say. Not all of them were legitimate locations. And so they were kind of set up at the time when you could still do that pretty easily. So we did have quite a bit of local SEO to do at a large scale. And so that's really where I got a lot of my local experience was working for that law firm. So they gave me a pretty good budget to work with. So I had the opportunity to test some things and really figure out what worked for myself. You go onto social media, LinkedIn, YouTube. You do find that it is quite a bit of an echo chamber of, people sharing strategies and this is what works for local and half of it doesn't even work a lot of the time. And so you really do have to test everything for yourself and figure out what works, just observing the rankings for yourself.
Cool. Nice story. So you do a lot of stuff now, obviously, with specializing in home services. You do a lot of work with roofers. So we've worked with some roofers as well. I'd love to know what the common SEO challenges that you've seen amongst roofers, their websites.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I can bridge that from the lawyers to the roofers. So, eventually I kind of came to the conclusion that it was time to start my own agency. So I wanted to work with people that I enjoy working with. And so I do enjoy, the blue collar home services industry. So, and I had some connections already in it. What I found was a lot of the roofers that are currently investing in SEO aren't super involved with their strategies. And, a lot of the companies that they work with do tell them things are going well and we're getting good results for you. And it's just not the case. And so, there's a little bit of gaslighting in there. And so I did have a couple of instances where people were coming to me and saying like, hey, can you take a look at my website? I've been working with this company for 4 or 5 years and haven't really noticed a difference. And so I'll go in and I'll audit their website, and, they have a good web design. There's just not enough activity going on. I can provide them that audit and tell them that there's a lot of things that can be changed and can be improved, and show them the ROI behind actually doing real local SEO and, actually having the inputs necessary that it takes to rank. It's not the most competitive industry. It's not like personal injury, but it is still fairly competitive in a lot of cities. And so, there is a curve to being able to help these businesses out. And it just takes the right amount of inputs into their websites. Now, a lot of these roofing businesses do also, they also need work on their website, because you can bring a bunch of people to a website, but if it's not set up to convert, then, you're wasting resources, essentially. So we did introduce also a design function of our business where we do web design for the roofers. And so we've done some facelifts for our clients where it's like, we need to set this page up to convert. Once we do that, then we're going to focus on driving traffic to it. And that makes a lot of sense to them. They always give us a thumbs up for that. So we do a good blend of design work, ROI analysis, conversion rate optimization, and then lastly, focusing on that traffic growth.
Nice. Yeah, I think a lot of reporting, especially in the local space, it's a lot of vanity metrics, a lot of just like stacking things in a report so you can see items. So you think the SEO agency is busy, like a list of links, and they're mostly citations. They spent $20 on that list of citations. So a lot of that is just meant to make it look like you're busy. You mentioned that you thought a lot of the advice out there was like, someone says that it's parroted across the different social media platforms and a lot of it was bad. Can you talk about that? What kind of things have you heard that you think like is maybe bad advice? Yeah, actually, let's just start there. What kind of things do you think are bad advice that are common?
Yeah, and it's not so much that like you can't try these things and test it for yourself. So absolutely go do it for yourself. Again, don't just take my word for it, because this is an industry where you have to test on your own. But from what I've seen agencies coming in and trying to sell packages where it's like, we're going to do things like, we're going to add geo-targeted photos to your reviews, and they're charging them a pretty good amount. And it's just that in isolation. So they're going to add geo-targeted photos to their Google business profile. And I'm like, that can help, but that's not going to move you up to the top of the rankings by itself. There's also reviews. There's also the types of reviews that you're getting. Google's gotten really good about analyzing, the types of reviews that people are leaving. And if they're mentioning certain keywords in their reviews, like, if a company does like siding work or exterior painting, if you have people mentioning that stuff in the reviews, you will actually show up when people search that stuff into Google. So the reviews are a factor. The images that your customers leave on reviews are another factor. So, that's something that I work with a lot of businesses on, where we're setting up the review acquisition systems, not just to get the review, but to get detailed reviews with photos. And that has worked really, really well. And then, of course, replying to all the reviews with, additional context for Google. And so that, and then also a lot of them will simply saying like, we're going to be publishing content on your website and uploading blog posts. And this is the most common one that I'm seeing, where like they're just uploading blog posts, but one, they're not really keyword driven. And so it's just like, it's not really anything that people are searching for. It's just busy work, and it's fully AI generated. I can tell that it hasn't been touched by a person, and it looks really bad. Like, you go again back to the design side, like it's stretched across the entire width of the screen, and so like nobody's going to read it. The readability is really, really low, and there's just so many issues with it. And then and then it's also like at the price point that they're charging, it's a lot of money for very, very little work. And so I literally went on the call with one of these guys, and I'm like, look, I can generate this article in 5 minutes on ChatGPT and upload it to the site. And I did it for him on the call. And I'm like, this is what you're paying, thousands of dollars for every single month.
Oh my God. It's crazy, isn't it? Where do these guys find these clients? That's what I want to know. They get away with it for years, churning out ChatGPT $5 content. It's terrible, isn't it? But anyway, you come in and save the day, hopefully. You spot all of the issues, which sounds like it's basically the fundamentals to begin with. So you also did a pretty in-depth guide, roofing SEO, a blueprint this year. So why don't you start by walking us through those, fundamental elements that would formulate the groundwork for a successful SEO strategy for a roofing company?
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of it gets convoluted. And I'm a big fundamentals guy, and so I always start with, at the end of the day, this is a website, and Google needs to index the website and then determine how to rank it. Just like any other industry, whether you're in your local, enterprise, e-commerce, it's just Google trying to figure out where to fit your website in with the rest of the other websites on the internet. Right. So, I always do start with, the Google Business Profile, because that is where a lot of the leads do come from. And optimizing that is, it doesn't take a lot to go in and optimize the Google Business Profile. You hit everything, you update the Q&As, you and make sure you include keywords, update the description, making sure, again, that you're not trying to keyword stuff, you're just trying to include, some of the services that they offer and then localize it, making sure that they have good quality photography on there. And so it's kind of a blend of again, like if somebody were to land on this profile, are they going to know what the company does and want to work with them? And so that conversion piece is really important. And something I've observed too is Google really does take user behavior into account for both Google Business Profile and organic listings on the internet for their website. And so having that kind of first and foremost in the thought is making sure that users are interacting with your website. You're not just optimizing for the search engine, you are optimizing so that people can read your articles. You have a good depth of scroll when people are landing on your website, and you could track all this with tools like Microsoft Clarity. Observe the heat maps, see where people are clicking, making sure people are clicking onto things. And so with a Google Business Profile, back to that, you need good images. You need people to want to work with you and show the quality of your work with, your roofs or your siding, whatever it is you're doing. And then back to the review acquisition piece, this is probably the biggest piece of it, is going to be that review acquisition. Having a system where your workers are on site, they finish the job, you have a tap card maybe, or you have a QR code with you where they can easily just upload a review on the spot pretty much. You provide them the photos to upload as well with it. You're not supposed to do this, but you can even offer incentives for doing it. And so just making sure that you're getting a review after every single job is super important, and then addressing the negative reviews. And so, there's a lot of information out there about that. One of the other biggest ranking factors for the map pack is going to be proximity. And so, that's, if you do a search for anything by you right now, you're going to see stuff that's close to you, and it's that simple. And so I do encourage my clients to open up new office locations in cities that they want to be in, like actually getting a physical office, and the ROI is worth it for them, because if you get a couple leads out of that office per month, you're paying for your rent. In the roofing industry, you're getting 10-20 grand for a roof.
Would you recommend doing this? Like, let's take a city like Denver. If you're in one of the northern suburbs, is this the case of like, I'm going to start a physical office in the southern suburbs, and then I can cover that area? Like a city the size of Denver, how would you think about that? Like one office, a couple offices, what would make the most sense?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that kind of a general rule of thumb is like about 50 miles. If you're, and again, that really depends on your city and the industry you're in. If there's a ton of businesses in your area, you can do, every 30 to 50 miles, you can open up a new office. So yeah, Northern Colorado, Southern Colorado, all it does is give you more coverage. Now, obviously you're going to appear in the search results. It's just that you're going to appear way lower. If you're, down in the southern tip of Denver, you're searching for a roofer, you're not going to see many results all the way up in like Thornton and Broomfield and up north. So yeah, you can. And I'm currently testing this too. Like, again, like it's all just an ongoing test, and I love testing. And so I'm kind of testing that distance and what really makes sense. But you can really take over an area. Like if there's a small city outside of your main metro, if there's a smaller city, like maybe like 100 miles out, and you open a location there's maybe 5-6 other Google Business Profile they're competing for that city. You can get a ton of business from opening an office there. So I wouldn't focus so much on, the metros, but like look outside. There's so much opportunity in home services because there's houses everywhere, right?
What do you actually need to start? Sorry, Chris. What do you actually need to start that office? Like, is there a way you can test this without, a big expensive office contract? What's the easiest way to do this?
Yeah, and that's what also helps about kind of going outside to some of the smaller cities. I mean, we're not talking like tiny populations, like a pretty decently sized city, 50 to 100,000 people, it's a lot cheaper to open an office in those areas. And so you can take that more of that risk and not have to worry so much about it not working out. And so you want to avoid virtual offices. You don't want to do like a Regis or, other things like that. You used to be able to do that. And, back to my law firm that I worked with, they had several Google business profiles set up at a Regis. And so Google didn't touch it. So they're kind of like grandfathered in, like, don't touch that address. Don't try to move it. You're in a prime spot. So yeah, try to find a legitimate office. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And what I've noticed too is that when Google is verifying a profile, you will fight a battle. If you're in roofing, personal injury, certain industries, when you mark the category, certain industries get flagged for, this is a high risk field for fake Google business profiles. So you have to go through the video verification process to get your business profile approved. And it's a battle because you will film the video, you will submit it, and Google will not register it. And so you have to keep doing this over and over and over again, recording the video. Even if it is a legitimate office, I had a client and he had to record the video at least 20 to 30 times just to get it approved. And it was not like they were denying him. They just weren't taking the video. And that's just not a one-off. I've been hearing this consistently from a lot of different people. And so you do have to make sure that you're getting the street sign. And so people can see that, get a view of the area outside of the office when you're filming the video. You have to show the address number outside of the house, exterior signage, right? And then you go into the office, show that you have the keys, show that you have, an actual desk, working setup in there. And so it's gotten kind of extreme and getting some of these approved. Now you might have an easier time than that, but that's what I've experienced trying to work with some people on this.
It's crazy. So long gone are the days where you can do anything quick, simple and easy. I imagine you come across some clients that don't have physical offices and therefore are operating without a verified Google My Business profile. So what's the fastest way you recommend for them to achieve these results then?
Yeah. So if you're a service area business, it's not the end of the world. And Google should be more fair to these types of businesses. It's if you want to stop everybody from making fake Google business profiles, make the service area businesses more visible, right? So to me, they're just shooting themselves in the foot by doing that, by having the algorithms work that way. And I get it, because you're working off of a map physically, but still, if they want to fight that and they want to have less fake Google business profiles being created, make the service area businesses have more visibility. And then again, at that point, it really is about entering in your service areas within the Google business profile. So you do have your, you can list out all the cities that you work in. And so you can have a list of up to 20 cities. So you do that. You should build out, and then citations become really challenging too, because a lot of citations do require that physical address as well. And so it does raise some challenges for sure. And so really the reviews become super important. Optimizing your landing page, whatever page is hooked up to your Google business profile, is super, super important as well. And providing Google as many signals as you can that you are based in this certain area, right? So, and then it comes down to also exterior signals. And so while you might not have a physical address, so you can't get listed in a lot of citations, you still can get featured on local news, and you can still get backlinks from local sources showing, just again, providing more context to Google, hey, I'm right here in Highlands Ranch. This is where I'm operating in. Show me to these customers. And so I think it becomes that much more important to focus kind of more on the organic SEO side of things instead of the map pack.
Okay, so let's talk about organic SEO then. We've talked quite a bit about the map pack, but let's say we're just looking at the website. When you're doing a new audit, what are the things you're looking for with a local site?
And then this is in my guide as well, where I do really dive into the organic side of it, because I think that it's an understated side of local SEO, and I think it's just as important as the map pack. And so what you're looking for with it is, are you localized? And so I see a lot of home service websites that don't even have their city name on half the pages. And so doing simple things like this, making sure that you are localized, making sure that your meta titles and meta tags are set to target the right keywords. And so that's the power of working with one type of business, right? Is that I know the average search volumes and the conversions behind roof replacement versus roof repair versus roofing contractor, like all the different variations, right? And so having a good blend of targeting for all those types of keywords and building out pages like that are super, super important. We do take a local service page approach with our clients. And so we kind of pick out some of the top areas that we want to target around their metro. And then we start building out pages targeting the different services that they offer. So, in the event of like an electrician, for example, they're doing EV charger installations, they're doing electrical panel replacements and repair. So you go after their top, revenue producing services first, and you want to start building out pages for each of those areas around the city. And, this is not a new strategy. This has been done, but it works because if you go to different areas of your city and you search electrical panel replacement near me, you're going to see a different set of results than if you go a county over. And so the SERPs tell all in SEO, no matter what industry you're in or where in SEO you're at, the SERPs tell all. So if you're ever wondering, how do I approach this? See what Google's doing right now to, index those sites, right?
You mentioned you make sure you have those pages, which sounds pretty crazy if you would have a local site and not be targeting those pages. But on the other side of that, I see some companies will put a crazy number of locations. So they might put every single town within a giant metro. How much is too much? What pages should you be creating? Where should you draw the line when you're creating all those location pages?
Yeah, and again, that is so dependent on your city, because Denver, for example, has a lot of metros around Denver. And so I think that all those are valuable to target. Now, you don't need to get so granular that where you're targeting specific neighborhoods. If it's just like, and again, you can set kind of like some population parameters around this. And so if you're targeting some really, really small areas, it's kind of unnecessary because, again, if you're seeing a different result in Google for it, then you can probably create a page for it. And then, of course, interlinking is an extremely important part of that as well. So you're linking everything together. You don't need to go overboard with this. We typically start with kind of doing this approach and just making sure they're starting to show up. And the only reason is that we start with this is because these are like your commercial page keywords that you're going after. So very, very high intent. If somebody's searching for roof repair near me or roof repair in Denver, it's a very high intent keyword. Somebody is looking to get a quote from a roofer about roof repair. They have a need. So these are the types of keywords that are most likely to drive business for them first. And so we focus on that. And then we focus in on more of the local, type of blog post style articles where we're localizing some guides, and cost guides are super, super important for every city. And things like that, again, you don't need to go localize for every single location around a metro for those blog posts. You just need to kind of target your metro for those. But just making sure that your entire website is kind of focused on a certain area is really, really important for Google. And having that context for Google to be able to tell, like, this business is very active and they cover this range of area. And then it's, stacking on the external signals of digital PR and local news sources on top of that is what takes a website from, nothing, not ranking at all, to being one of the top ranking pages for almost every search in a city.
Adding the links on top of the fuel to the fire to the content. That's
yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. Just before we get to links, you mentioned the price guide was very important. So is this something which is like typical within the roofing industry? Is this like something which gets searched for a lot? I imagine this is obviously a lot more informational content, but then obviously it can lead to sales. So is this just something which works and is a really good piece of content to have on those roofing sites?
Yeah, and again, this is why we offer like service area exclusivity, because we do not want to be producing the same article for a bunch of different companies in one city. We want to be the one company that's ranking for things like roofing calculator or roofing costs in whatever city they're in. And so it is really important to have those informational type of queries. And again, that specializing in an industry allows you to know what are the commonly searched informational queries that we needed to go after that can also produce customers. And so, if I'm just producing content that doesn't really produce customers and just drives a bunch of clicks, again, you're boosting up the vanity metrics. Looks good, but it doesn't affect their bottom line. And then so if you have the ability to produce something like a cost calculator or a pricing guide for a roof replacement, based on the square footage of your house, or, helping people kind of determine the price, that's something that can result in customers for the business. And being able to show ROI behind your work in SEO that's what retains customers for a very, very long time.
Do you think the content is, like blog content specifically, is a long ongoing thing? Because I think for like a roofers, for example, they could create the calculators, the cost, answer all the common questions. Like, what do you do after that? Do you need to keep creating content, or is that something that agencies just often do because they want to keep showing things in the report?
Yeah, I think kind of both trains of thought here are true. So yes, people do just continue to produce content just for the sake of producing content. Do I think that there's a cap on the number of revenue producing keywords that you can publish for a roofing company? I think it would take probably a couple, depending on their investment amount, but it probably would take some time to hit that cap of there's no more content to produce, period. And it also depends on their goals, because if you are really dominating SEO for a company, then they're getting a ton of business, right? Do they want to continue to grow to other cities? Because that's, a conquest that you can embark on with them, where they're like, I want to go to the city next door because we're doing so well here. And so in that case, then you can either create a new site targeting that city specifically. The exact match domain strategy works very, very well still. Or so then that would be another engagement essentially, or they say like, hey, we're good and we're good with where we're at. And I had a client bring that up recently, where they're like, we're doing so well, like, do I need to keep investing in SEO at this point? And
you were like, yeah, we've got the exclusivity deal on the calculator. If you fire me, I'm taking my calculator to the next city over.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. But what I do tell them is that, we can stop, but your competitors don't stop. So just because we stop doing SEO, your competitors will continue to try to take your rankings. And it is all a competition at the end of the day. The people that I work with in the home service industry are competitive, and they want to continue, winning in any way they can. And so I think that they appreciate that we come in with this mentality of we're trying to be number one. Like, we're not just trying to be in the top 10, top 3. We want all of your keywords to rank actually number 1.
Yeah, makes total sense. All right, now let's move on to links and digital PR. You mentioned this, and I think you said it was the way to dominate your market. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, and where I'm coming from with that is that I've seen websites with very little on-page SEO, and they might just they organically just do like digital PR without even realizing it, right? Like, they're getting featured in local sources, like they're just doing traditional stuff, right? But it also has a profound effect on their SEO, because they'll be doing nothing on page, not building out, not having like the right amount of service pages, etc. But they'll have some really, really good local links, and they'll be getting traffic to the site without optimizing really. So to me, that is the icing on the cake that really solidifies you and entrenches a business, especially on the local scale, into the top. Because if you have that and those links stick around forever, like at local sources, they don't like really remove past links. Like, there's stuff from like 10 years ago that are still helping them rank. So yeah, I've seen that work really well with pretty minimal on-page SEO.
I think as well, you talk about them earning like PR links naturally just by going about their sort of normal like day-to-day, which is great, because that's what real businesses like should do. If they sponsor their local sports event, or they appear in the paper for whatever reason, and they get links that way. As a digital PR agency, we love working with like home service industries, and it is such a PR friendly subject to be talking about. So many of these guys are just a stone's throw away from being, miles ahead of the competition if they just do a little bit of what they already have in their head. They just need to connect with the journalist, offer some, expert commentary, and bada boom, bada bing, they can have like 10 of the best links in against all the competition.
Right. Yeah, it's really amazing. And these journalists are so open to, local entrepreneurship too.
Yeah.
And so they love like the story, right? And so, I always tell my clients, like, they want to know about you. They don't want to know about your business as much. They want to know about you. And so like, obviously the business is, the vessel there, but they want to hear the startup story. They want to know like, and they want to feature you, so I tell my clients, I'm like, show yourself on your website, like have pictures of you, your family, share your background, especially if it's a family business. Very, very common in the home service space, a lot of family businesses. And so it's just a good, small town feel when you do have that startup story. Like we started in the 80s. My dad started the business. I've been helping out since I was 9 years old, laying down shingles. So I don't know if you want a 9-year-old on a roof. That's not a real story, but
that could be a great news story when he falls off. It's going to go everywhere.
All good press is, or all press is good press is the term, right? Yeah.
We're going to see the US blows up now with 9-year-old boys falling off roofs across every state.
That's the strategy. I'm gonna run with that. Don't take it. No, but yeah. So they love the local startup stories and again, like sponsoring events and things like that. You get picked up, and then of course. There's a lot of other strategies around that. And so that's something that we're getting more into, systemizing. And so, maybe I'll have to work with you guys on creating some new strategies that we can use for the home services. But yeah, I've seen just the organic stuff work really, really well in that space.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of strategies do you like for local PR? I think we've seen some things that work really well, but like you're talking about like the family story, the entrepreneurial journey. How are they finding those sort of opportunities? Because I imagine journalists aren't just like, browsing about pages looking for family businesses.
Yeah.
How do they actually, like what strategies do they have for like getting out there in front of the press?
Yeah. And that's going to be a relationships game on any level, right? And so, being able to actually go out and build connections with the journalists and the PR specialists. And so that's why, working in this space, something that we do is we start building databases for cities and so and for industries. And so we are currently building out a database of like, here are some people in the city that we can reach out to hopefully get a story together. And then you got your like PR newswire, you could send out PR blasts like that, but you do want to try to get an in with some of the local press if possible. And so kind of building out the relationships and kind of having like that story ready to go. And so when you do pitch it, they're more receptive to the completion of it. And then if they do like a high profile project, if they're doing like commercial work, especially, if they're doing like the stadium, or something kind of big that people know about, that's another opportunity to take it. And so, like it's not the most exciting industry. So like there's not a huge amount of like PR opportunities here, but you just have to know who to connect with and how to work it. Kind of create some longer term campaigns too with different journalists in the area, really.
We've had a lot of big brands on the show, and they'll do things like pop-up stores, which is obviously like a national campaign. But I think it would work equally well with smaller businesses. You'll see this where maybe they've like sponsored a soup kitchen around Christmas time or something, just associated their name for it. And that's just like, that's local sort of press building, isn't it? And that can work,
exactly.
I think.
Yeah, charity work. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. That is, exactly. And, donations and all that charity work that gets blown up as well when you do that right. So absolutely.
I think as well, like there's a lot of maybe your personal story that's, you might get some coverage here and there. I think that's phenomenal coverage when you get that. But it's the information that you have or the stats that you have about your industry that can get a lot of coverage, especially with something like real estate. Actually, I think most home services, they have that knowledge. A lot of publications will be running tip-based pieces on what to do with this, how to fix this, how not to do this. And to get that information, they're often going to the experts and quoting them. And when you work in one of those companies, own the company, you can be the expert. And I think it is a really good opportunity for these kinds of companies to get digital PR links and position themselves as the expert.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And then, again, focusing on the local signals, those local sources are super, super important there. But I totally agree. I think that I just think that everybody needs to be doing this in some capacity, even if you're a business owner and you're not investing in SEO. It is really important to at least have this on your forefront. I advise everybody like with some strategies like, hey, go do this, whether or not they are working with us or not for on-page SEO and content creation and things like that. There's a lot that a business owner can do on their own, as we've talked about.
Okay, as this has been great. As we wrap up, it would be remiss of us to not obviously talk about AI. Are you having clients come up to you saying, hey, my competitors are appearing in Perplexity and the latest one from China, blah, blah, blah. Like, get me in there. Is this a concern for you? Are you actively pursuing any like proactive strategies to appear in the large language model, AI generated stuff?
Yeah, and AI has been it's been really interesting to watch over the last year, especially. It seems like a couple years ago, nobody really, like before ChatGPT came out, nobody really was paying attention to it. It wasn't really on the forefront of everybody's minds. And when it came out, I felt like I was like, on something, because I'm like, I just found this super cool. It's so cool. Like, you can type whatever you want in and it gives me like, this kind of response. You can build tools, you could write code. And so it kind of felt new and fresh. And now you got just, anybody using AI to find businesses. I've had customer or clients come up to me and they're saying like, we had a customer come through from ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Where they're using these tools to search for roofing companies or lawyers or things like that. And I keep hearing this more and more and more. It's not very much right now, but it's enough to where it's caught my attention. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and I think the jury is still out on the ranking signals for how GPT looks at that, because it's not one-to-one with Google, right? But it is fairly close, because ranking signals are ranking signals, and just like search engines, AI needs a way to sort the options and be able to provide the best possible option. So how does it do that, right? It uses the context, it uses the authority signals. So it does, in my mind, it does use a lot of similar signals as search. And so, it is something that I'm experimenting with and trying to learn more about and observing what are the results that AI is producing. But to me, when people talk about the difference between like looking at Google search versus Bing search, there are a lot of common ranking factors. And so I kind of say, if we're optimizing for Google, as long as we're indexed and set up on Bing as well, you will show up there as well for a lot of the similar signals. If anything, those search engines are more regressed in terms of their ability to rank websites. So they use a little bit more of like the basic ranking signals. But yeah, AI, jury's still out on that. Still trying to see exactly what the differences are in ranking signals between Google and that. But something that needs to be watched and measured. Absolutely.
I think that's a smart play, though, is execute a good SEO strategy. Let's wait and see, because nobody really knows yet. Although it's got to be taking trust from somewhere. It's not going to be some like random, it just guesses. It's got to be assigning weight to its results in some way or another. So I think that's a good plan. Just execute a good SEO strategy, and then much of it's going to be about the same, we'd hope, and you can tweak and go.
Yeah, and the same thing applies for like the AI overviews. I do see a lot of similar ranking topics. When you kind of scroll down, it's not always the first result that's going to be appearing in the AI overview. It could be within the top 10, even the top 20 sometimes, that they pull from. Mm-hmm. And so when they provide those sources and I see my client in the source for the AI overview, I always screenshot it and I send it to them. I'm like, hey, we're showing up in AI. Or if it shows up in ChatGPT, like they just love seeing that. They love seeing like, hey, we're actually appearing. And so aside from like tangible leads and conversions, they do want to see like, hey, I'm getting visibility. I'm up here, even though we're not ranking in the top 5 for this keyword. We're showing up in the AI overviews right now.
That has to make them just a little bit calmer, right? Like there's just this looming change that we're not sure how it's going to play out, starting to show up in the AI overviews or in ChatGPT. That has to be just a little bit more comforting for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, and honestly, like AI isn't really on the forefront of a lot of my clients' minds. So I do like kind of send out some news blasts to my clients and say like, hey, like here are some updates happening in the industry. I always try to kind of keep them up to speed and informed. And so it is important to keep your clients up to speed on everything going on in search, whether they care or not.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Austin, this has been a fantastic talk. I think this is the perfect spot to wrap it up. For people who want to connect with you, where can we send them?
LinkedIn is great. My business name is Spotlight Media 360. I operate it with my father. Like I said, we work with home services and home contractors, but I'm on LinkedIn. I post on there, and so definitely connect with me on there. And if you want to start a conversation or just meet and chat and talk some SEO, I'm always down for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. Cheers, Austin.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.